Audit is not catch you. Audit is to improve you on mistake. So there is a difference between mistake and integrity. I think I keep teaching all my employees it is okay to make mistakes.
Welcome to Brave. Learn from Southeast Asia's best tech leaders. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. No BS on success. I'm Jeremy Au, venture capitalist, Sierra founder, Harvard MBA, science fiction nerd, and dad of 2 daughters. Every week, we debate startup news, interview changemakers, answer listener questions, and share personal insights. Join our movement of over 40,000 members and get transcripts, resources, and community at www.bravesea.com. Stay well and stay brave.
Hey, good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time. You have had such a experience in the telco industry, and just really fascinated to hear that story.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, being with you.
Yeah. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Vikram. I'm the CEO for Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison. We are one of the telco in Indonesia with close to 200 million customer, more than $3 billion revenue. And the good thing is we are one of the few who have committed to AI, and we are in that journey.
Yeah, fantastic. So, obviously there's so many questions about what's it like to be a CEO of a telco and so forth. But let's go all the way to the beginning, which is, what were you doing in university? Did you ever imagine at university that one day you'd be a CEO of a telco? Was that part of your big plan when you were 18 or 19 years old?
Memory down the lane. I studied from a small town in India. I come from Jamshedpur, but that town was known as Tata Steel. Very focused on education, upbringing. But after my high school, I went to Bangalore. Bangalore today is known as the Silicon Valley of India, but those early days, it was also known as the Rose Garden of India. It was so beautiful, good weather. I still remember my school in Bangalore never used to have even the ceiling fan. The weather used to be so good. Things have changed. But coming back to your point, I never thought that I'll be a CEO, I'll be doing something like this. But what was clear on my mind that I want to do something which is not usual. You have to stand out. So that instinct was always there. Things which are never done before, enjoy doing hard things, challenging the status quo. That DNA was always there. But never ever I thought that I want to be a CEO or something like that.
When you said that you always wanted to challenge the status quo, how did that show up when you were a teenager? Were you rebellious? Were you a good student? Were you doing different activities?
Yes, I was always into. I had a younger sister. We were in the same school. And she was always academically very strong. I still remember my parents' teacher meeting, where my teacher told my mom used to be a professor and a principal for college, which trained the teachers, certify them. So all the teachers used to have a lot of respect for her. And she said that I want to be in everything other than studies. I was always the average student. But when it comes to sports, I'll be on the volleyball team, I'll be on basketball team, I play cricket, anything outdoor, I'm there. Doing things which are not just normal was always there with me.
And what's interesting is that you went to university even though you were doing sports. And what was the degree you chose for university?
I think this is something which I'll always remember in life, So after doing my +2, I had taken science as a background, engineering college in India after completing my +2 from Bangalore. And then in my first semester of exams, 2 things happened. One, I realized I'm not enjoying it. So one of the course was engineering drawing. So you have to take all your equipment and all, and the professor will think, imagine, and my mind is going into some all imagination. While I was coming close to my first semester of exam, my mother went through medical issues and I had to stay with her in the hospital. That is the time where I lost my mom and I was not able to give my first semester exam. And the moment we recovered and, I was with my dad and he was extremely supportive and I told him that, look, I don't want to do engineering. I have to say, parents, and that is why I believe if you are supported properly, you can do wonders. He said, no problem, Vikram, do what you want to do. And I said, I want to do Bachelor of Business Management. In India, growing up, if you are not engineer or if you're not doctor or if you're not a civil servant, you are no one. And I chose something which was very unconventional. And my dad supported me. He said, perfect, we will support you what you want to do. So I took a back seat. I went back to Bangalore, joined business management, and I completed that and worked for 3 years. And then I did my MBA. It was very different from a normal, conventional doing engineering and then doing management.
Right. Wow. What a story. And it's interesting because, I went back all the way in your LinkedIn profile. Your first job was a trainee at Coca-Cola. Why did you choose to work at Coca-Cola?
This is very interesting that you figured it out. So let me tell you how I got my first job. I completed my Bachelor of Business Management. And then when I was doing my internship in Bangalore, I joined a paging company. That time, pager itself was being very cool. Having a pager, so mobile was a big deal. When I came back after completing my BBM, and there was a lot of pressure on me to get into MBA immediately. And I was back home for my summer holidays. And, one of my friends, he had a franchisee of a mobile company. And because of just having a kick of having a big mobile, it's like you go off. So I said, look, I will join you for 3 months. I'm here. I've done the paging thing in Bangalore. I know what it is. He said, no worries, you have fun. And I was selling mobile, and then I was applying for MBAs in different places. As part of selling mobile, the marketing head of Coca-Cola in Jamshedpur, at during time, Coca-Cola was getting launched in India. They were acquiring Thumbs Up. And, that guy spotted me in one of the events. There was an event happening in that small town. And I must be doing something. And he spotted me. And I get a request. Coca-Cola general manager, marketing head, want to meet to buy new connections and mobile. That place was 20 kilometers from where I was. I said, do I need to go so far to sell this? But then again, I was told, no, they want to see you and they want to meet you. So I drove my bike, I went there, and I was selling connections, prepaid and postpaid mobile connections to them with a package. I never realized they're interviewing me for a job.
Oh, I want to buy your product.
At the end of that sales pitch, I got an offer. Why don't you join us? So I said, wow. And look, Coke is a brand. So this was a turning point in my life. I still remember my bosses who gave me this opportunity and I joined. But the hard thing was to convince my dad that I don't want to do MBA.
Oh.
I want to work for Coca-Cola. Again, my dad supported me. He said, look, I will not say no, but you have to complete your MBA. That was my deal with my dad. So I joined. I joined them as trainee. Initially, I was sales trainee, and then immediately I was made marketing executive at a very young age. Did extremely well there. And then, again, I met a HR head in Coke who was a leader management trainee who came in and he had come from a MBA background. So he became a very good friend. He also told me that, Vikram, look, you must do your MBA. Close to 2 years, I applied and I got into IMI, which is again one of the premium institute. And then my family, my parents, my in-laws, everyone, from my family, from my mother's side and all, they were very happy. I joined for my MBA, but the general manager of Coca-Cola, I still remember his name, Amit Bedi. He was very kind. He wrote a special note that, we want to hire you back when you complete. But then come is very selective which campus they go for campus selection when they pick up young leader. IMI was one of the, but was not coming there. But in my case, because of his recommendation, after completing the offer back. So after completing, I joined back again and I joined from an eastern part of India. I went to western part of India. I joined them as marketing manager. That is how, my career started, so I got the opportunity to work with for 2 years, took a break, did my MBA, joined back again.
Wow, amazing. And I'm just kind of curious because today we call Coca-Cola a multinational corporation. I mean, back then it was just expanding to India, to Southeast Asia. What was it like for you? Because do you remember any management lessons or did you have any good bosses that you learned from during this time at Coca-Cola?
Yes, I've been extremely lucky to work with good bosses. What you learn while working is much more than what you learn in campus or universities. Some of the value system which I learned in Coca-Cola stays with me till date. The number one was at a very young age, I was having marketing sponsorship budget and all. And my boss told me that, how important is to do the right thing. The money, what you are spending, You only know whether you are doing it right or you are not doing it properly. The value of making sure that treat every dollar as your own money,
Right.
that upbringing got into me. Second, which is a real life example, all these big companies have a lot of audit rules and all. So I used to do route riding. So you are in your truck, you have your loader, you have your driver, you have to sell everything in peak summer temperature. So what I saw, when I was learning, my driver is getting into it, and sometimes he will take the Pepsi bottle and carrot and replace it with Coke bottle to get the share of that outlet. So I saw him doing it. I thought I should also do. Next day, I also did the same thing just to make a point on one of the outlet. I said, okay, I will get these 5 cases. Don't worry if you don't have empty bottle. I'll take Pepsi bottle in return. I'll give you Coke bottle. And everything I did, I wrote it on the piece of paper. After 3 weeks, I get a call and everyone is like, what did you do? I said, what did I do? I don't know. Then there were auditors from Delhi and Atlanta, and then they said, you have picked up competition bottle, and this is grossly wrong. I said, yes, but I saw the loader and driver doing it. I did it for the benefit of the company. I think two things happened. One, I think from a rule book, this was the game on the ground, but nobody documented.
Oh, okay.
Being everything, and then it came as an evidence and all. But what saved me is I was honest.
Yeah.
I was not trying to hit up. I was very honest with the auditor and with my seniors, and they cautioned me. But key learning which I got is if you make mistakes, also be honest and upfront. Audit is not catch you. Audit is to improve you on mistake. So there is a difference between mistake and integrity. I think I keep teaching all my employees it is okay to make mistakes. So don't make mistakes with integrity. And because I was very honest, I was upfront, I was not hiding anything, it was categorized as mistake. If I would have tried to make up something and all, it would have been in integrity and I would have lost my job.
Wow, that's such a powerful, and thanks for sharing about that mistake. And I think I imagine so many junior people would have been like, oh,
Getting defensive, trying to make it up, and then, then it categorized as integrity. You are doing something which is not right.
And what's interesting is that you actually kind of like got your first set of like experience at Coca-Cola, etc. And then what's interesting is that you then moved into telco. So I guess from pages to Coca-Cola and back to telcos. So what made you say like I want to go back into the kind of like the technology or the infrastructure space?
I think to your point, also taught me the power of distribution. In especially large countries. I started my career in India. Things are at scale. The power of distribution. We had to make sure we rotate our classes in peak summer at least 3-4 times. So you are not only selling something, you are bringing your glasses back, getting into the factory again. It is getting rebottled and going back. I learned the basics of distribution. Telco was scaling up from a postpaid to a prepaid market. When you receive an incoming call, also you have to pay the early 2G days. I still remember a call cost you some 30-40 cents. From that, it was moving into a more affordable. So you needed people with distribution background. Senior people from companies like Coke joined, and that is how I was pulled into it. The moment I got there, and then when you start playing with technology, how can you have a multiplier effect on the power of distribution? That has been my journey. Learning the basics of distribution of FMCG from Coke, bringing it to industry on a prepaid market, scaling it up, and using technology to have a flywheel effect.
So how does the power of the distribution work? Because normally when people think about, they think about marketing, they think about sales, but distribution is not really, everyone's like a lower tier than marketing or sales, right? So explain distribution in the context of the telco industry back in the early days, like 2G, 3G.
Today also, if you ask me, the X factor is distribution. I've been in Indonesia for 6 years, worked in India, I've worked in Africa, I've spent time in Kenya, Nigeria. So I've worked in all the market other than China, which is more than 200 million population. One thing till today I'll tell you, the X factor is distribution. And I'll tell you why. So, there is a rapid shift on online from offline. Online, yes, it has a lot of value and we all have to do it. But you want to get an X factor to do hard thing, then it is offline. So today we have close to 300,000 mom and pop shops. They are your brand ambassador. They feel selling you compared to other. And when you are doing it in rural parts of the world where, even for somebody who is a first time user, they don't go online. Shop nearby and ask them which one to take. Can you help me set it up? The shopkeeper will only be inclined where he is getting a better service. He'll be inclined which company he is getting better service, which company he feel that somebody will handhold me. So it's all about distribution, giving direct service. When I went, direct distribution was only of my total sale. Early 2019, we used to do around 1.7, $1.8 billion revenue. And out of that, 85% was prepaid. So it comes down to 1.5 billion. Only 15% was directly to retailer. Rest all were through wholesaler. So when I'm doing through wholesaler, I'm not giving them service. I'm just giving them delivery.
Right.
That we have shifted. Now around 70% is direct. So it's a journey, and this is the hard journey. And that is where, as you said, people take it lower down, but they don't realize. If you look at that journey, pre-merger, post-merger, if one thing which has been a differentiator other than network, because network is a product, and second is offline distribution, how you are able to serve. It's a proven case where if you get your offline distribution right, if you are able to serve the rural part and the urban part, top 10 cities better than anyone else, if you are able to educate, and it's not about just making more margin. It is about making sure the person who is selling your product is more confident on getting the right service, getting the right delivery on time. That itself makes a big difference.
And what's interesting is that you were doing this distribution component and you've done this, like you said, across multiple countries. Are there differences in distribution approaches in different countries? One, is it Africa, in India, in Indonesia? Are there differences, or do you find like they're more similar?
There are differences, but one thing is very similar and common is what I told you, that the further you go, the more important it is you give timely service. So example, when I was in Africa, I saw very high dependency on wholesaler. The problem statement was same. He is going to outlet shops which are 50, 60 kilometers away from the depot. And then they are giving it to wholesaler, and wholesaler is supplying for everyone. It is easy. But the moment you start serving everyone, so this is common. I think the difference is, let me give you a contrast. Today in Indonesia, across FMCG category, what you get, say for example in Jakarta, you get 2 GB data for 10,000. You go to Bogor, you might get it for 11. You go to a deep rural village, we call it desa, it will go to 13,000. Why is it happening? The guy sitting in desa, he needs to give advance payment to a wholesaler and then wait for his product to come. So he's not able to rotate his money as fast as somebody in Jakarta. In Jakarta, he's getting service 3 times in a week. So he is selling. So the market operating prices changes. People don't understand that a guy in rural deserves the same service, same price. So this is what, there are similarities. The challenges are much more in countries like Indonesia and in Nigeria compared to India. India, the FMCG distribution is much more evolved. Generally, the distribution setup is, more cluster approach. You have a lot of small distributors, but some of these countries, you have a master distributor. You have very big businessman, and then he will do little bit of delivery themselves, and rest they put it to wholesaler and other people who are just with a small margin. So these are the unique differences, but the challenge is same. How do you solve the problem of giving a very good service to everyone?
Right. And what's interesting is that, you mentioned, I think, several technology waves that already happened, right? I mean, it's like pages, then it became voice, 2G, obviously 3G, 4G, and now we're at 5G, right? So I'm just kind of curious, how do you see those technology changes? Because you've been part of a telco between 2G to 3G to 4G and now 5G. How have you seen the telco industry, or at least how have you seen it play out for these different generational changes?
Yes, I think I've been in the industry for 2 decades. What 3G promise got delivered on 4G. 2G was very simple. We all got into, and it was so exciting. First time something was transformative. People from a fixed phone, you have a wireless phone. Cellular, you can move everywhere. Data era. I still remember launching 3G. What 3G deliver? It will deliver YouTube videos, WhatsApp call. So I think the full potential of 3G got delivered on 4G. And then I think 5G again, has not been able to unlock anything which is a game changer. And personally, off late, I've been spending a lot of time on AI. I believe AI plus 5G, which needs low latency, which can solve a lot of problems. Think of it, all of if I can have a personal assistant as an agent who helps me on every step, have a personal nurse who understand me and give me proactive guidance. Every children will have a personal tutor as an agent. My 2 decade of learning in terms of all the evolution of G, we were too focused on speed. Speed can do to a certain limit, but yes, we saw a lot of things which were not possible earlier, and that got started with 3G, but it completely got demonstrated on 4G. The 5G potential will get unlocked now, which is AI plus 5G. AI will be a big blessing for 5G, and we can see that happening, especially with agentic and agent space. Will be a game changer.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because I was in Switzerland, Zurich, I was just walking around the lake and I was like, you know what, I'll try talking to AI. And so, ChatGPT, I hit the thing and then I had a conversation. I had my AirPods on, but I wasn't talking to my wife, to the AI and, it was low latency. So it felt like a normal conversation actually, as if I was doing a phone call with a friend and it was a beautiful scenery. So I thought it was interesting to see that latency happen.
No, you are right. There are a lot of real use case, especially, on things like health, education. Again, early days, but it will be transformative. It is something leveler and also it is a game changer.
Right. I think what's interesting is that, when we talk about AI, obviously we're talking about, like you said, internet speed, latency, volume of data, is it free or unlimited or 5 GB or whatever it is. And there's also a big debate about the infrastructure needed to invest in it, right? And I think right now there's a lot of debate about, are we over investing too much or are we under investing for it, right? So, and I was laughing a bit because I feel like this argument, I still remember the newspaper articles for 2G is like, are we over investing or under investing? 3G, there's always that debate, I think, all the time about what is the right amount of infrastructure to build out for the upcoming revolution, right? So I'm just kind of curious, you must have been part of those decisions, like how much to invest in 2G, how much invest in 3G. How do you think about it now? Like what were some of the experiences you had in like, I don't know, upgrading from 2G to 3G or 3G to 4G? Those were the decisions you had to make. Yeah.
I think you are asking a very good question. I must say this. Being in telco industry for 2 decades, telco is very capex intensive.
Right.
Today, in last 3 years, I've invested $2.5 billion as capital expenditure.
Wow.
Which is 23 to 25% of my revenue. You will not see any industry which is so capex intensive. Generally, when we write our business case, we write on an IRR of 20%, 22%. The reality is 70% of the telco globally don't even meet ROIC that 9, 10%, not even more than 12, 13%. The point which I'm trying to make is people like me who have been in the industry for too long, we are comfortable doing known things, whatever is the outcome, because that is the playbook.
Right.
We are very comfortable spending on what we know,
Right.
but we are not comfortable spending in new technologies, innovation. So this is one part of the story, and that is why telcos have struggled globally. I think AI is a real opportunity to pivot because AI is a leveler for everyone.
Right.
And for AI, you don't have, if you're doing a foundation model also like LLM, there is a lot of noise whether countries, companies would build LLM or we leave it to some of the big companies from US and we just consume end services. Or on infrastructure, I think the need of the hour is every country need to have their sovereign infrastructure. What does that mean? It has to be credible companies in the country who build that sovereign infrastructure. The most important resource is your data. So with all these background, when I took my first bet into investing on infrastructure at Indosat, our AI factories, Lintasata, which is my subsidiary, we started with $200 million bet. Last year in August, we got the first bunch H100 again, I was very supported with my shareholder. So this is something new to them.
Right.
But the reality is we don't know. Fast forward 6 to 7 months, I think it has been a great learning. Today, we have moved from H100 to B200. Now we are talking GB200. Of innovation is very fast. What is important is you write the business case with keeping in mind what can go wrong. Over promise. But not taking pledge is not an answer. Not doing is not an answer. So we have gone full stack. We want to create factory, which is the infrastructure layer, but we don't want to stop there. We want to have the end solution. Otherwise, we'll again become a pipe. What happened with telco will happen again.
Right.
So we want to make sure we create peace, we create partnership. You can't do it alone, but you need to deal with partner who is fair to you and who is fair to the country where you are operating. So I think that is the journey, and AI is all about ecosystem play. And again, around a week back, I was in Las Vegas with a lot of leaders. The joke in the room is AI is everywhere other than PNL. But the reality, it made me nervous because this is where we started. But when we ended, what I saw companies who have started early, they have started seeing the value on the pulse. So I think countries, companies have to be on the forefront. You can't be a follower. And then it is a great opportunity. Personally, we are very much committed and invested on this. Have started seeing good results.
I'm curious because, for a lot of industries, agriculture, for example, the pace of change is a bit linear, right? And there's physical reality, whereas technology feels like more, low curve. And I think telco is like that interesting mix of both, where you have set up real towers, real infrastructure, but of course it's technology. So you have that, bridge between the physical world and the digital world is so key. I'm just kind of curious, but is it worse to take too aggressive a bet and have it fail? Or is it worse to have it too conservative a bet on the technology change and underinvest?
I think it is better to take a plunge and fail than not do anything. Not doing anything is a bigger risk. Your chance of success, not doing technology is real.
Yeah.
These shifts are real.
Right.
So it is better take a plunge and fail than sit and not do anything.
Good to know. I mean, I was just kind of curious. And, I think one thing you also mentioned as well is that, one of the challenges for telcos is they just end up being a pipe, right? And a pipe between, they lay the pipe in the real world and then they just end up being a pipe between the ecosystem. So, and I think we've seen a lot of telcos, make that decision. Some have focused to become, let's focus on a pipe strategy, more of a commodity, margins play, and others have tried to enrich, like you said, ecosystem and so forth. I'm not saying there's right or wrong, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what's your approach or framework of how to think about it? Yeah.
No, as you rightly said, there is no right or wrong. You
Yeah.
can be a pipe and you can run a pipe at a very low cost and make margin out of it.
Right.
That can be one approach. And I really like what you said. There is no right or wrong answer. I think the important thing I want to highlight, again, being in the industry for 2 decades, we have been too good on blaming others. We kept blaming regulator, we kept blaming OTT. But the reality is we were too arrogant. We had customer, but we were never trying to give a real marvelous experience. Some of these e-commerce companies have given is at least they have been very focused on customer experience.
Right.
We had always relationship with customer, but we had issues around roaming, VAS, self-inflictive pain. So I think my first learning has been to focus on giving them the big deal to have with customer. How can we give them marvelous experience?
Right.
And we don't have to blame anyone. We have to really focus on what they want and do it. This is one. Second, I think, as you rightly said, we have to make our choices. You want to be a pipe and make margin out of that pipe, write your business case, but make sure that your ROIs are all more than at least your cost of capital, so that you are doing a business which people believe in, investors believe in, your shareholder believe in, and they say it. The other thing is COVID was the first time the respect of telco industry was coming back. If I go back to 2016-17, if you look at GSMA report, telco was rated below tobacco. After investing, we have been a bit self-inflicted because of our VAS issues, roaming issues. People lost trust on us. I think during COVID, they realized how important is telco, how important is core connectivity. Whether you want to work from home, whether you want to study from home, or even getting entertained. So I think for me personally, that was a pivot moment. And after that, ChatGPT moment happened, and then people started understanding AI. Now it has been there, but it came on the forefront. So it is very well timed for telco and for companies like us. And immediately after COVID, we said let's pledge into AI. Let's get, whether it is 4G or 5G. What is important is what problem you are solving with the technology and how you are solving it at scale. So I think that mindset, and with now AI on the forefront, you will see few telcos who will be a force to reckon with. Hope was not there pre-COVID. The telcos were struggling. I'm a big fan of T-Mobile US. People of experience, trust, and also when there are crises, look up to how you are managing and how you are supporting the community. So I think that is very exciting, and that is where I get a lot of support from my employee when I say that our larger purpose is to empower every Indonesian. Our larger purpose is to help Indonesia be the saper, not just be a taker. So that is the journey which we are walking now.
And when we talk about how obviously technology benefits every Indonesian, I think there are concerns by people about, the pace of change, and technology tends to trickle from the top, right? Or the rich, or the people who are well connected to the rest, right? And you give an example of companies. Some companies are early adopters, and now it's showing up in their P&L, but it takes time for it to happen, right? So what do you think about that dynamic where people are concerned about, would AI, is it only for people who have fast internet and so on? How would you address that?
I think there are two parts to it. On one side, investors, shareholders are curious, as you rightly said, where is the value? Is it hype or is it my personal learning? And this is me, my personal capacity. I think it is real. First, you have to do it right. And if you don't know, the good thing is you can ask AI. For a companies like us, it is important we have the right design principle. We do it top down. These are not or commercial mandate. These are leadership mandate. The board and the management team need to commit. This starts with that. And if you do it right, you will start seeing value. If you don't see value, then it will be like, is it a dot-com bubble or is it metaverse? AI is beyond that. It is just that you have to get into it, do it top down, and get your people along. The I'm seeing is, will AI replace jobs? There are more damaging use cases than productive use cases. These are the two real need to be addressed. My learning is spending time with some of the best mind in the world, whether it is consulting, tech company. I think 10% is tool, 20% is platform, still 70% is people. You have to do all this shift, technology shift, and now we are talking AI growth mindset. And with the growth mindset, you have to get your people along, invest on your people. Let me give you an example of call center. There is a lot of noise. AI will replace call center agent. The reality is still today also, if you look at any call center at scale, attrition every year. Why do people resign? Because they don't like doing that job and nobody wants to be in that job forever. So how can you make some of these more interesting jobs available? When you work with growth mindset, you are able to invest in the company and you create more opportunities. So I think that is where things are going. So we have to address the people concern. We have to get people along. And I think companies who are successful, they're investing equally on people, number one. Number two, responsible AI. It is our collective responsibility. We stay ahead of the curve. As a CEO, the biggest risk which I see is cyber attacks, and with connectivity with AI comes all these risks. I've been amazed, the fake calls, the spam which is happening. So bad actor using AI, if they are more advanced than good actor, will be an imbalance. So I think again it is in our interest that how do we have more good actor using this technology for solving real problems.
I think the scam and spam issue is really horrendous. And I think there's such an interesting piece where, in Singapore, we literally had multiple episodes, like from the director of GovTech is very much saying Singapore is getting scammed. It's a target for so many people in the region. And I'm just kind of curious, what do you think about it? Why is it happening? Why does it seem to be more of it rather than less of it? Yeah.
Yes, because the bad actors is using more an early adapter. So I will not name it, but I know in Singapore, some of my friends who are at very senior level, very well educated, they have been scammed by $40,000, $50,000.
Oh boy.
So first time when I did my voice I did a contract, fake voice, you can hear my wife will not be able to recognize whether it is me or someone else.
Yeah.
So these things are reality.
Yeah.
So how do we focus on more responsible AI? How do we focus on making sure it is again that virus and antivirus game?
Right.
How do we make sure that the whole ecosystem invests on making sure that we are ahead of the game? So all these things will happen. So today, when I say in Indonesia AI for all, one of my focus is by July, August, I want to launch that all my 100 million customers are protected by AI powered solution so that if any scam call, he should get notified before it happened. If somebody can scam you, there are technologies to protect you. Our job is to stay ahead of the curve. We need to do whatever we can to make sure these bad actors are not to scale up. I think there are more policies, framework which will come, but directionally, policies should enable innovation. It should not curtail innovation. These are directional things. But responsible AI is very important. We need to be all working together on making sure. And coming back to your point on scam and spam, you'll not believe they are so targeted. They are targeting elderly people, they're targeting women because they are more empathetic. And the scale is horrifying. I think it is our collective responsibility to make sure we protect our customer technology to ensure that they are safe and protected. More AI, the more all these scam and risk security. So it is extremely important that we stay ahead of the curve.
And what's interesting is that you've talked about AI for all Indonesians. How do you see that cascade? Because you've seen technology cascade, right? I mean, last time only the rich and powerful, as I remember, back when it was a status symbol.
Yes.
People will proudly wear it on the belt, and there's a leather wallet, and it's a pager, right? Then obviously everybody got a pager. Then it was the first phone, then it was the Nokia. Then it became the BlackBerry, and then it became the iPhone. So obviously it takes time to trickle, and now everybody who wants a smartphone can get a smartphone. But how do you think this AI thing? How do you think it would spread across the whole population from your perspective, based on your experience with past technology waves?
So pace of innovation is 10x now. Just to give you some example, first time when App Store was launched, I think it was whether you looked at Apple or Google, it started with few million customers and it took some time to scale up. When ChatGPT got launched, it started a different scale and scale up is 10x.
Yeah.
So I think the first key learning I have is the pace of innovation is, what happened in a decade is happening in 2 years now.
Right.
Yeah, this is one. Second, I think especially, you made a very good point. Again, because I was in US week, the maximum impact of AI has been on health. But again, it is confined to top 10 cities, these Mayo Hospital in New York or other name which came up, benefiting the top 5%, the rich people. Personally, I feel that it will scale up very soon because the cost of compute and innovation, what was not possible earlier, is possible now. Always keep telling that you can be in one of the rural place. You don't have to be in Singapore. You can be in Tarakan, in Jakarta, and get the same education what is happening at Harvard. Earlier, it was not possible. Yeah. Similarly, on health, at least on early detection. Today in Indonesia, a lot of people in rural suffer whether they have a dengue or there are not enough doctors, trained nurses. If you get to know early and if it is right, then you get treatment properly. All these things, I think we are also working with partners to bring it at scale. It will take some time, but there's a lot of work happening, for scale up to happen fast. And when I see what has happened in last 3-4 years, I'm very confident that it will benefit all humans.
And I'm just curious because you've this interesting mix of both like and cross country, and then also you've seen different technology waves. I'm just kind of curious, like, do you for the AI wave, and you compare that with the excitement they had for 5G, compared to the excitement they had for 4G and 3G, do you like, I don't know, get like are you like excited every 5 years for a new revolution, or is it like you feel I'm just kind of curious.
So one thing I'll call it out. AI is not about G, 3G, 4G, 5G. This was happening every 3 years, and
Yeah.
this was all being created
Right.
by vendor ecosystem. They have to sell something. You have to compare AI with when steam engine was introduced,
Yeah.
when internet was introduced. This is what AI is for you. AI is not one of the G's which have come for 3 years. Compare AI with all the telco, So it is very transformative. And the right way to compare, think of it when steam engine was invented. Think of it when internet. The art of possibilities goes to a different level. That is what AI for us.
So let's talk about that, I guess, science fiction future, right? Because, I always tell people, I was like, when the internet was invented, nobody ever thought there would be ordering shoes on e-commerce. I mean, back when, internet was first invented versus people buying McDonald's online, for delivery. So it's like, a huge difference, right? So AI was just invented over the past few years. When you look 20, 30 years down the road, what do you think AI is going to become? So like super intelligence, how do you think that 20 to 30 years out looks like for you?
I think AI will be very transformative. It will help countries on their GDP growth. Whether you look at education, and the most important thing is education. Today, same is on agriculture. I come from emerging countries, emerging economies, so I speak more on real challenges. Same is on health. So I think AI will have a very transformative impact. It will benefit everyone. The other thing is, aging population. The world is having this challenge. So having agent, robotics, these are all, I can see the vision. And I think we have to look at AI with a positive outlook, and then we can see how AI can benefit all, how AI can help in today's world when we are going through a lot of challenges, how we can bring more good news, how we can help people live better, how we can bring happiness and joy, how we can help money in the circular economy. I think there will be more and more people working with this constructive mindset, with the ecosystem mindset.
What's interesting is that, there's, like the, people who are very focused on super abundance, prosperity. If everyone will get a universal basic income one day. And then there's a bunch of, like you said, doomers, AI will kill us, Skynet. So I'm just kind of curious, how would you think we should think about it? Or, yeah.
Every technology comes with more and more responsibility, and AI is very powerful. The way data is getting trained, the way the cost of training is coming down with all these innovation, DeepSeek and Gemini, new model, ChatGPT, we have to be responsible. There are bad actors who can. But I think the way to go is a more optimistic and more positive outlook towards working together. One of the rule of AI is no one person, one company can do everything. It's about a very collaborative approach of bringing a kind of an ecosystem which is solving problem. And in my case, I always focus on solving problem at scale. So I'm a bit biased because sometimes my friends tell me that I'm a born optimistic. So I always urge towards more optimistic outlook, but I don't discount the challenges and concern and regulation. But we have to solve that.
And I'm just curious because, when you look at your work, you've always been so focused on technology and growth and being a CEO and across different countries. And I also understand you also have a personal life as well. So how do you balance both spheres?
My wife, I have two kids, both
Yeah.
teenagers. So they have been very supportive, Having said that, you can only do this if you are very passionate about what you are doing and you get very well supported by your family. I don't believe in work-life balance. It is all interlinked. It is just that you have to prioritize your time. You have to make sure that, you don't miss out. Living a life of a CEO, you miss out a life of a childhood. What I want to be versus what I am getting portrayed is very different. But I have to live a life of a listed company CEO. The biggest support and emotional cushion is your family, your wife, your children. So at least I have blocked my calendar, 2 holidays in a year, come what may. We do at least every Saturday. I want to make sure we go out dinner together. Off late, I've been traveling a lot. I've been on the road for 15, 18 days. But I do it because I'm very passionate and I know I'm working for a purpose. The other big support is your team. You need to have people around you who really bring a lot of positive intent. And you also need to have people around you who are better than you. So that mindset has helped me. Always surround yourself with people who are better than you.
Yeah, amazing. And, could you share a personal story about a time that you have been brave?
Personally, the most brave decision which I took was to take the assignment of a merger. because the moment I was told it while I was excited, but when I spoke few of my close friends, everyone told me that it is a recipe for disaster. Of the CEOs who have taken this, they lose their job in 12 to 18 months, maximum 2 years. Because telco mergers, if you go back to history, close to 100% was failure.
Yeah.
There was not any example. And that is what I started in 2022. People that supported me, my family supported me, and my team, I have to say, now we have become we looked at each other, as management team. It has been 3 years now, and we said we have two choices. One, to become history, two, to create history. Let's work towards creating history. So it's mind over matter. We started with that mindset, and the end result is when we started, everyone, Fitch, Moody, everyone rated us negative watch list, and I don't blame them because they work on historical data. First year they put us neutral, second year positive, third year double A plus. So that was a big bet because before that I have been consistently doing well, and that fear of failure was there. That at the end of the day, as professional, what you have is just your reputation, and then you don't want to be in the industry signed off that you did a failure. But when you do it with conviction, when you do it with right people around you, with the right support ecosystem, magic happens.
So for myself, I've been a consultant at Bain, and I've done and worked with two M&A processes. So the truth, like I said, is most of them fail. Statistically, it's true.
Yes.
So I'm curious from your perspective, what did you do that you think, the success? Was it luck? Was it something you did? Was the team like, but what would you say are the things? Because like you said, statistically, it's most likely a fail for most M&A. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I've been asked this question few times now because we have become a playbook. In fact, people from UK, they were there in our office a few weeks back. We started with a certain set of guiding principle. And number one was, let's look at merger with a growth mindset. Of the mergers are driven on optimize because there are synergy value. You are speaking to investor analyst and they only track you on how much you are saving, how much cost you are cutting it out. I think that is extremely important because that is real, that is tangible. But when you deal with your employees, when you deal with a larger mission, what really energy is maximize, So this is the first guiding principle which helped us. The second thing which helped us is Indosat is a very iconic brand, brand in the Indonesia to connect Indonesia to the world 57 years back. So people have a lot of expectation. I worked with Coke. I started my career. I understand the power of brand. And we anchored everything on the larger purpose. And we were really honest. It is not just communication strategy. I picked it up early during my first 100 day. I was going to visit people on field. What excites people is not selling recharge or enterprise solution. What excites them is if they are doing something for the country.
Right.
So our whole merger was anchored around larger purpose, how we are empowering Indonesian, how we are helping the country, whatever we can. So carry it to the larger purpose. Second, I think our experience is paramount. No merger, customer don't care. What matters to them is how you are giving them better experience and giving value for money. They don't want cheap product because telco products in countries like Indonesia is sub $3. So, and the kind of work which you do is very productive. It is not consumption, it is primary. Even a Gojek driver, if you want to make money, he need to be connected. Somebody in, even a farmer, a lot of things which he do and what he spend is 40, 50,000 rupiah and what he do is much, much more important. So he need a reliable, good service which he can trust, which he can be productive in his work. So I think experience, these are the three things which we really focused on and it paid off.
Yeah. And you said that you were scared, right? You had fear because your friends were telling you not a good idea, you might lose your job. But I'm just kind of curious, how do you take care of that fear? Do you go for running? Do you meditate? I'm just kind of curious, how do you, go through that? Because I mean, the CEO job is a stressful job.
Yes, so fear of failure was not only losing job financially, but losing all your reputation. At the end of the day, you are up to the whole world right for it.
Yeah.
I've had experience where some of my CEO friend, when they had to step down, how media wrote, how so it impacts their family, their children. It's not an easy job. People look at the glamorous side of it. So the point which I'm making is fear was real. The important thing is you don't look back. Once you decide, you don't look back. Yes, what you said is very important. How do you manage a daily basis? What has helped me? I attended a course, which was done by a lady called, I'm not remembering her name. It was Egon Zender, and that lady, she wrote a book, Winning from Within. The biggest learning which I got there was to let go on what is in your control. What you don't control, rotate yourself on that. So I've been trying to master the art of let go and then really focus on what is in your control. And that is what I keep telling our team. And once you give your best, you just enjoy your journey. It is extremely important to enjoy the journey. When you are doing hard things, you need to enjoy it properly.
Thank you so much. On that note, I'd love to kind of like summarize the 3 big takeaways. First of all, thanks so much for sharing about your early university. You were an athlete and competitor who tried computer science and engineering, and then you changed to business management. And I thought it was fascinating to hear about your early career at Coca-Cola and what you learned from your bosses there, and even your mistakes that you made. So thank you so much for being so open about that. Secondly, thanks so much for sharing about why you're excited about AI. And I think using that historical lens of looking at G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and like you said, you think actually that AI is, an revolution, like the industrial revolution, the steam engine. So it's a different plane. But I thought it was just interesting to see some of the parallels and some of the dynamics between investments versus over-investments versus underinvestments. So really fascinating there. And lastly, thanks so much for sharing about your own experience as a CEO and leader, about obviously leading into thinking about sovereignty, but also thinking about how to make AI accessible for all. So on that note, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. We would also appreciate you leaving a rating or review. Head over to www.bravesea.com for member content, resources, and community. Stay well and stay brave.